What is up, everybody? It's Dr. Vibe here, host and producer of the award-winning Dr. Vibe Show, the home of Epic Conversations. I'm the host of Epic Conversations, 2018 Innovation Award winner given out by the Canadian Ethnic Media Association. And once a month, one of the other things I do is I host an online broadcast for fathers that is co-sponsored by Dove Men Care and Dad Central Canada's National Fatherhood Organization. And we're broadcasting live here on August 23rd here in Toronto. It is hot like fire. I mean, hot today, but we've got even more heat we're bringing. On most Sunday afternoons at 5 p.m. Eastern Time, I host an epic conversation called Black Canada Talking. And Black Canada Talking is about a live online event that provides Black Canadians an opportunity to give their takes and POVs on subjects that are of importance to them. So today, we have another special guest, and I'm hoping he becomes a friend because him and I have a lot of things in common, but we've never met like really officially till mid last week, and it involves the music. But let's give it a little background. Today we're going to be talking about Advance, and for those who don't know about Advance, it's Canada's Black music collective. It's leading the change in developing an infrastructure for the betterment, upliftment, and retention of Black people in the music business, serving as a unified front for Black people working within all sectors of the Canadian music industry. Advance creates conditions for long-term success by addressing racial equality and inclusivity through 4 areas: advocacy, mentorship, community outreach, and business development and entrepreneurship. By holding the corporate, private, and government sectors accountable, Advance is committed to building a more equitable Canadian music industry that grants Canada's Black music communities a fair and valued voice in a consistently growing music nation. Now, the special friend we have today, he's actually on the board of Advance, and this gentleman I've heard about for years, but finally we got him here. But I'm jealous of his background. Well, let me give you some background about him. David Click Cox started his career as a member of the MMVA. And for those who don't know about that acronym, that's Much Music Video Association and Juno-nominated group, the Maximum Definitive. For those who don't know about Much Music, you may be watching outside of Canada. Canada's national music station is called Much Music. He created a reputation for his promotional and marketing efforts, working closely with concert promotions with REMG. And for those who don't know about that acronym, that's the Ramos Entertainment Music Group. And Jonathan Ramos, the R in the REMG, is one of the key figures in the history of hip-hop music in Toronto. Soon after he started his career working with BMG Music, and then worked at Universal Music as A&R. And for those, little inside secret, when I had hair, I was the first person to do urban music at Universal Music. Actually, I was the first person of color to be hired in that capacity, but that's another conversation. During his time with Universal, David founded the Stylus Awards to celebrate Canadian urban music and music talents and recognition of DJs. After 8 years with Universal, he created his own entertainment company, CLK Creative Works. Today, CLK is responsible for managing an eclectic roster of highly skilled and experienced artists. Along with management, David teaches music business at Metalworks and the Remix Project. Let us welcome for the first time, and not the last time, even though I'm jealous where he is today, David Click Cox. How we doing?
Doing, man? What's happening?
Everything's happening. How you, man? What's cracking?
Let me
Okay,
just
no. You just keep
for me.
no. You just keep yourself in the picture. Don't give me no side views of that nonsense. How you doing today, bro?
I'm good. How you doing, man?
I am blessed, highly favored, a magnet for miracles, and a solution for someone's problem. And I like to say, still black.
We all are.
There you go. Where are you at right now?
And I'm proud to be that too. You know what I'm saying?
There you go. Where are you at right now?
Man, I'm in Toronto. I'm just down near the water. You know,
nice.
Just running some errands around town, and it just came down to the fact that I don't know if I can get home on time. Let me just pull up somewhere and get on this interview with you. You know what I mean? But thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
I think us meeting is long overdue because we have so many things in common. And folks, we did have a conversation last Wednesday, and we only probably scheduled to speak for half an hour. We could have went on for a whole day. because there's
right.
there's so many things in common. But Dave, can you share a little bit with the audience, a little bit of background?
Where, say that again, where I was born and stuff?
Yeah, and
Oh,
growing
okay.
up, all that kind of stuff.
I was born in Santa Monica, California.
What?
Yeah, I'm American.
American.
So I grew up in LA until I was about 5, and then moved to Edmonton, Alberta,
Wow.
where I grew up in Alberta until I was around my 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 late teens, early 20s, and then moved to Toronto.
Okay, cool.
And been
What?
here ever since.
Yeah, what got you into the music industry? Or did you find it, or did it find you?
I think it's a little bit of both, to be honest with you. I mean,
Yeah.
I think like from a very young age, music has been a major component in my life. You know what I'm saying? Like, from playing instruments to, to b-boying, like that's where my real, I guess you could say, connection to the music was in the 80s, and with hip hop and stuff, and dancing, and being part of the group that you mentioned earlier, the Maxim Definitive in Edmonton in the late 80s, early 90s. We were kind of the elite group that was doing a lot of stuff in the city at that time. And
Mm-hmm.
then with the successes, like you had mentioned, with the Junos and the MMVAs and all that type of stuff, it just made sense to either move to Vancouver or move to Toronto. I actually was trying to get the crew to move to New York. I was like, yo,
Wow.
let's go to New York, But
Yeah.
they all had roots here in Toronto, the rest
Okay.
of the crew, and it just made more sense for us to go to Toronto, and I love it here. I haven't left yet. You know what I mean? Like, I've thought about it many times, to be honest with you.
Wow. What keeps you here?
Man, the culture.
Mm.
Toronto has such a beautiful culture, such a beautiful vibe. It has a you can get everything you wanted in this city. You know what I'm saying? And it just I think that's probably one of the biggest things. And then just obviously getting into the music business and kind of like I guess you could say planting my feet on solid ground there. I kind of just ran with it.
Yeah. No problem. How did you get your start at BMG, and also your inroads at Universal? How did those two stories happen?
Um, in the late '90s, early 2000s, I had actually was going to Harris Institute of the Arts at the time,
Yep.
and I also at the same time was doing a lot of promo with our good friend Jonathan Ramos, and I was doing a lot of the concerts with him, and I actually thought at that moment in time I would actually I was inspiring to go into publishing, and I wanted to go to New York and actually intern for a publishing company, but based on the success that we were having with the shows, because I was the runner for all the shows. I was booking the artists into their hotel rooms. I was getting them from from A to B, and I was very involved in that. But I was also hosting some of the shows. I was promoting all the shows at all the radio stations. So I was very active, and I got hit up from BMG, asked me if I wanted to come in for interview for a job in their marketing department, and that's basically where it started. That's where I kind of got my feet wet with record labels.
And how did you get into Universal?
Universal came about a year and some later. Something that I'm a really good that I'm a real firm believer in is mentorship and guidance, and especially amongst like Black professionals, and Ivan Barry I've known for
Oh, wow.
years, because
Oh, yeah.
our crew was opening up for like Dream Warriors, and like
Oh,
we knew them from the early 90s, you know what I'm
yep.
saying? And so the relationship was there, and at the time Ivan actually worked at BMG the same
Yep.
time that I worked at BMG. And one day he called me into his office, and he's like, "Yo, Click, are you applying for this A&R job at Universal?" And I was like, no. He's like, what do you mean no? What are you talking about? I'm like, I don't know if I'm ready for that yet. You know, I had like a preconceived notion of like the steps that you needed to take to go somewhere.
Right.
And I always felt like I've always been a huge fan of radio, you know, in the early, from 1989 to 94, I had a radio show on University of Alberta. So
Okay,
I
well,
think
that's another thing you and I have in common, because I go back to college radio at Scarborough College, University of Toronto.
Yes. See, I knew that because I told you, I know your name because I used to send you music from BMV Music.
Okay.
I know that. You know what I'm saying? So for me, running into Ivan, and Ivan called me in his office and basically saying, you know, he said, I think you would be a good candidate for the job. And you know, after he kind of broke it down, the science to me, I was like, okay, you know what? Yeah, I'll apply, you know, and funny enough, they actually, I think they stopped applying. I think they stopped in interviews, but they called him to ask if there's anybody else out there that they weren't,
Oh, wow.
they hadn't seen yet. And so that was a Friday. On the Monday, I went in for an interview, and I guess the rest is history. I worked at Universal for about 9 years.
Yeah. And
Doing A&R.
what were some memories you have during that 8-year stint? Some things you won't forget. Like Click and I were chatting last week when I was working at Universal. The dominant memory was getting the Roots to play in Toronto the first time. Like, and he said he was at that show, which is actually yeah. But one or two memories from your time at Universal.
I think the first one I have to really like rest my hat on is Julie Black, because that was a project that I was really able to get my hands, you know, into the meat and potatoes of the project, and really like lead it and really champion it amongst the company, you know. And then I would also say like memories is just like the time that I was there, especially in the earlier parts. There was a really good synergy of the people that we worked with. And I think that's one thing that people take for granted is we work in a people's business. So it's all about who you connect with and where the synergies are. And that's not just from external to internal. It's also internal. Like, do you gel with the marketing manager? Does the marketing manager gel with the PR team? Like, there's all these things that kind of like, that make a great project be successful. And I think from my time, the great memories I have was actually with those individuals, like those people that I was able to cut the cake with, you know what I'm saying? And
sure,
especially when there was like an urban department at that time, the Universal Urban Department, I have to big up everybody that came from that time. And then I think the other thing for me would be just like the endless tiring grind of mentoring the music scene in the community that we have right now. Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah,
you know, I wasn't just somebody who sat at a desk and took what came to me. I went out there and I tried to nurture people. You know what I'm saying?
Nice.
And I believe that if I nurtured certain cats, it would come back in a roundabout way. You know what I'm saying?
Nice. Well, I'm going to give you a choice. I like to give. Well, you're a friend, so I won't give my friends. Do you want to chat about the Canadian Black music scene, or do you want to talk about Advance first? Which one you want to go at first?
Well, I think they're both one of the same. To be real with you, like, I mean, you know, one of the reasons why I came on this today is not necessarily to talk all about Advance, because Advance is an important thing, but the bigger picture is like the roundtable discussions that I'm doing right now.
Okay,
that's really an important thing to shine the light on, which is aligned with Advance, which is aligned with the music industry. So it's like they're kind of all intertwined.
Okay, so let's talk about some of these roundtable discussions that you're having right now. Now, how did they come about, and how are they going?
They're going really, really, really well. We're in our 4th week coming up on Tuesday. So we've already had 3 episodes, and you can view those episodes right now online. If you go to www.bdr breakingdownracialbarriers.ca, so that's basically the URL for it. But it's been really good from the standpoint of bringing our community together. I think that's really how it got started, was myself and Ian Andre Espinay, who's
Yes.
an OG concert promoter, graphic designer, just overall guy on the ground. You know what I'm saying? In
Absolutely.
and like making a difference. And me and him, we've known each other a long time. And one day we're having this conversation shortly after the George Floyd incident, and just talking about our frustrations with the Canadian music business, and specifically what's popping with the Black community. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of it with me was like, I'm going on to Instagram, I'm watching all these Zoom conversations and people connecting in an American industry, but I don't hear anybody in Canada saying shit. And that really bothered me. I'm like, yo, we have a very rich, long history, and we have artists that are at the top of the fucking totem pole, excuse my language.
Okay.
And we need to have these discussions amongst ourselves to release, to mobilize, to educate, and to also kind of make sure that we're all on the same playing field, and making sure that, like, because you know when you get like in a small group and it's like, you know, you got 10 people in one room, you got 10 people in another room, you got it kind of gets sporadic, and
Right.
it's like, yo, let's get everybody and make sure that everybody's seeing what we're doing and hearing what the challenges are.
Yep.
Especially when it comes to the racial barriers that we've been facing in this country and that continue to face, you know?
Nice.
So we broke that down into 10 different weeks.
Wow.
We partnered up with SEMA, which is the Canadian Independent Music Association. And we also aligned with Advance, which is a brand new organization that's there to advance Black music professionals. And the idea was to use each of those weeks to target different segments of the music industry. So the first week was more of like a roundabout talking about systematic racism and what that looks like in the music business. And then the second week was talking about economics, like what are the challenges that we might face in terms of getting funding? Is there a challenge? And then last week was about media, you know, and radio, media, newspapers, TV. That was a really good conversation. We try to get the convos to go an hour and a half, and that went 3 hours.
Whoa!
It was a long conversation, but it had to be done.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
And this coming week is all about the live music business, you know, and a lot of that to me is going to be a very heated conversation. You know, we don't there's a lot of systematic problems we have amongst the live music business in this country, you know, from venue ownership to even getting booked at certain venues to even employment in certain areas, like, you know, be it Live Nation, be it booking agencies, be it even roadies, you know, like people that actually do the people behind the scenes that actually are putting together that are handling all the manpower in terms of putting together big shows on the road. Yep. You know, like when I look, like I've had the opportunity to travel the country. I've had opportunity to go to a lot of festivals, a lot of concerts. And I've been involved in doing shows. So I know a lot of the challenges, but I don't believe that I know all the answers, and I don't believe I know all the challenges either. So I think it's important to bring in different people that have had experiences in different sectors to talk about it. So this week we have Oren Bistos, who's an OG in club promotions, and we have another concert promoter from Calgary that's jump on the line, and obviously Ian and his background. So that's, you know, where we are now, and then moving forward, We're going to be jumping into conversations with artists and how that looks like, mentorship and succession, what that looks like. And at the end of it all, the goal is to put together a report that we can put in front of all the companies and say, listen, this is what we see the issues are, and this is the solutions that we believe need to be taking place. You know what I mean? So that's in a nutshell what it is.
No, well, that's great. Breaking it down as you have. Let me ask, when you are sharing this initiative with others, what is their initial responses? Are you getting buy-in automatically? Because I've seen some of the screens of how many people. It sounds like you have to turn people away.
From the black professionals,
Yes,
it's not a challenge. If it's a challenge, it's maybe because of their schedules. Do you know what I
sure.
mean? Like nobody's been like, I don't want to talk. Like I maybe had maybe 1 or 2 conversations with people that they just want to hear what exactly we're trying to do. Because one thing is, there's a lot of people that do the talking, but people are tired of talking. That's
Sure.
that's part of the problem is that amongst black folks, we just feel like, yo, this has been happening for fucking years. I'm tired of this. Let's change now. Why do I need to talk about it anymore? But it's good to talk about it because, like I said before, if you don't talk, we're just assuming.
Right.
Right?
I
And if
agree.
we want to get to the exact key element of what is the direct issue that is exactly happening. So, for example, in the economic one, having somebody from Factor, Ontario Creates, somebody from SOCAN, somebody used to work in Royal Bank, Ontario Creates. So having all these people were able to kind of talk about what it got down to talk about data and the
Of course.
of data to reflect the changes that we want to see when you address certain boards and you address certain companies to divvy out the money a certain way, or to make sure that they put more concentration in certain areas, or to back up what we're talking about. And the fact that a lot of this data does not exist. So that's a takeaway that we need to walk away from and put it in front of people, saying, you are not collecting this data. You know what I'm saying? So this needs to be changed, you know?
Right.
And I think some of the biggest challenge is, it's not really a challenge, but I think when we first started, there was a lot of people who were kind of skeptical in terms of other organizations that might want to align themselves to help in promoting what we're doing. But I think that's definitely changed in the last couple weeks, where more companies like, oh, hey, can we help support this initiative you guys are doing? You know what I mean? So,
nice.
People just sometimes need to see what's on the plate before they actually want to taste it. You know what I'm saying? It's like you might read that it says, oh, this is really good, steak and fries or whatever you want to call it, but you don't really know what it is until you actually see it being executed. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Just want to shout out here. Nicole Waldron says, long time. Yeah, she's watching live. She says, shout out to you, my brother. Also, Sarah from Ottawa saying we need this organization to train concert music promoters in the Ottawa-Gatineau area. There is such a lack of professionalism.
And that's to talk about Advance. Advance is still in its infantry process, but there is definitely a lot of people involved in helping kind of manifest what it needs to look like and how it needs to be executed. And definitely everybody that's been in these meetings and conversations all agree in the importance of educating and mentoring the next generation. And not just mentoring, but my perspective is we have relationships. I know a lot of different people. It goes beyond finding a candidate and mentoring somebody. Mentoring is not just hey, this is what this looks like. This is what this job looks like. This is the skills. This is the education. This is the knowledge. It has to go a step further. Almost the step of what Ivan did for me. It has to go to the step of saying, hey, I'm going to find you a position in this business and seed us in the places that we are not currently active in, and have our voices heard in these places. And it's not just companies. It's also boards, organizations. It's pretty much everywhere, you know?
Right.
The good thing is, since we've been doing this, I've heard from organizations who have a lack of Black people in their organizations, and they're watching and they're paying attention. And they're like, I've had the presidents of record companies contact me and be like, "Yo, Click, I'm watching this, and I've asked my staff to watch this." Like,
Oh, nice.
there's definitely there's definitely a feeling of people sitting at the table and watching and listening to what we want. And that's the first step. Now the question is, what's the next? Like, okay, you've heard us, you've seen us. Now let's see what you do with it, you know? And we have a little bit of, I guess you could say, muscle when it comes to going to, when some of us have been in the game for 20 plus years, to be able to go and knock on these doors and say, look, this is what the problems are. This is what we're doing to try to fix it. Now we need you to do your part to fix it as well. Do you know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. I say this respectfully, you are a music industry veteran. How much, if at all, has the industry changed for Black Canadians during your journey?
Through my time?
Yep. Don't jump in the water. It looks like you're going to go jump in the water with that question.
It's a good question, actually, because I think it's been this. It has not been a this.
Right.
It hasn't been this. Like, I don't think it's gone worse.
Right.
But I think that there's like pros and cons to it. Like, you know, there was one time when I felt like, like things are really changing, when we had like I think it was about 6 radio stations across the country that had gone to an urban format, the black music format. You know what I'm saying? And I thought that was like, okay, this is it. And within a year's time, all of those stations, all of them died, except for Flow. And so that was the wave. You know what I'm saying? But then I think the next curve was, in my opinion, was technology. Technology has empowered us to take back to claim our space without gatekeepers to a certain degree. Do you know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So I think that's part of it. I think the other element is there's just way more people finding success. And so our industry is getting bigger. There's more of us now. Like, 20 years ago, there was a smaller community. And maybe even out of those people that were part of that community, how many of them actually had like influence or power or success? It was very minuscule. Now it's like tripled. There's way more of us, way more people, and certain people having successes. So I think it's really about like mobilization.
Nice. No,
You know what I'm
it's
saying?
true. Absolutely.
I really think it's about mobilization to make the changes that we want to see, you know?
Nice. Sarah from Ottawa is asking, how are you going to hold, quote, them, unquote, accountable?
Well, a lot of it is like, I said this in another interview. We're at a place now where, how do I say this? We're at a place now where everything's laid out for you. We know, like, if you're not watching us, if you're not paying attention, and you're actually part of the problem, then we don't want to listen. We don't need you. Like, I'm not trying to beg nobody's friend here. I'm not trying to ask to be in a door that you're not allowing us to be in now. Now, there's certain doors, like the CRTC, for example, which is a door that we need to go and lobby against, in my opinion.
So, Dave,
like,
just
I believe there's certain doors that we do need to lobby against, and that's going to take data. It's going to take bodies, like manpower. It's not going to be one person walking in the door and saying, hey, make a change. It's going to need a community to actually dictate to ask for the change that's needed, in my opinion, you know?
Just wanted, and just forgive me for interrupting, that I have a worldwide audience. So if you could just explain the CRTC and their role in all of this, because some people, like I have Dr. Tattoos on from Florida. She's right into media and all that. And definitely people check out her great conversation called Mediascope on Wednesdays, 5 p.m. on IG Live, 6 p.m. on WJMS Radio, Instagram, Facebook Live, and LinkedIn Live. But CRTC, if you could explain that to our audience and how critical their role is in all this.
So CRTC, for example, is a governing organization body. I can't remember what it stands for.
Canadian Radio and Telecommunications
exactly, right?
Commission.
So
yep.
They're the board that dictate like what radio stations get spots on the dial. They're the board that dictate like what television stations and networks get on the dial. Like they are basically regulating what happens in the media space. If you go and look at their board right now, their main top executive board is all middle-aged white men.
Hasn't changed. And
then the board underneath them, there is one person up there is a black girl there, and there's a lot of women I noticed, which is awesome to see. But there's just not enough. You can't have one person of color within these positions and these organizations that is going to make change. That you need to have way more people involved, so that the challenges that they face when they're in those spaces, they come under attack and they have so much on their shoulders to try to like battle. You need to have more people in the spaces for the voices to be heard properly, in my opinion.
Okay.
I don't speak for everybody, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know you only speak for yourself.
Just my perspective.
Okay. Sarah's saying lobby against the CRTC. What's the reasoning? So she's saying why lobby against the CRTC?
Why lobby? Well, part of it is like, in my opinion, I believe that if we want to have the media outlets and have our voices and our music, our culture, our lifestyle presented in media properly, we have to have ownership in those spaces. We have to be. We can't let let's say like a fully white-owned company, white-run, come in and then dictate what our culture and what our voice is and who we are, because then that's where the racial microaggressions and all those other problems that come into racism happen, is because other people are painting pictures of us that is not true. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. She's saying CRTC is also the body that has mandated Canadian content, which protects Canadian content creators and artists.
Yes, that is true. And for the thing, and don't get it twisted, like they're supposed to be there to it's like any company. I use CRTC as an example. I don't want to spend all my time here talking about CRTC. It's about all companies and all organizations that don't have proper representation of us in their spaces, so that our proper voices are being heard, and that it's like being in a room. I always look at it like back in the day when I don't know if it's like this now, I'm a little older, right? But like being in school, you had like, the different cliques based on what they listen to or their styles, you know what I'm saying? And it's like, if I was to go to the headbangers or the metalheads in the corner and ask them to do something for the jazz heads, the likelihood of them wanting to do it, they might do it because it might be their job, but are they going to put it a priority? Are they going to make it something that they have a passion and a connection to when it has nothing aligned to who they are or their life or their culture? So I think it's important that when it comes to organizations, period, don't care what it is, that representation is within these companies. But you can't just have somebody representing like, oh, hey, we brought a guy and put him on the board, or we brought a guy and put him in the company. You also got to give them power. You also have to give them power in the sense of like to make decisions, to run a budget, to actually go for theirs, improve themselves. And I think that that's a lot of the challenge that we've seen in the music business. Is there's been plenty of black people, you know this vibe, because both you and me worked at one of these labels, right? There's been a lot of black people that worked at record companies, but there's barely any black professionals at a higher up executive levels
Yeah.
within these record companies.
Okay,
And,
good. Go ahead.
And there's a very small percentage of us in these spaces. And when you look at the percentage of Black music that is selling and what is popular right now, and when we're not in those spaces and we're not seen in these places, there's something wrong about that.
Cool. Sarah is saying CRTC is not a company. I think what David meant to say is organization, not company.
Yeah.
And just on that fact, when we were speaking earlier on or middle of last week, there are only, you were telling me maybe 2 Black persons that have power
Yes.
in Canada when it comes to music.
That
Can you just highlight
that are at a high executive level in this country at record labels with, like, we're talking hundreds and hundreds of employees over 3 companies, or actually more than 3 companies if you even consider independents. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, and I think that all of them are listening and all of them are trying to figure out how they can make those changes. Like, a good friend of mine just got hired as what I believe might be the first Black A&R guy at Warner Music Canada in 2020. Do you know what I'm saying? So the first time ever, you know what I mean? So, there are changes being done, and I don't expect any of these things to be done overnight. You know what I'm saying? Like, this isn't something where it's like, oh shit, let's jump on it. Things are going to happen tomorrow and everything's going to happen. Like, I look at this as the long game,
Nice. And so for those who are not aware, there is a wonderful Black woman that is in charge of Warner. So Warner Chappell.
Yep.
Yeah, Warner Chappell. And she's been around. And I'm saying this respectfully because I don't like to talk about women in age. Vivian Barkley is a long time veteran.
Yes.
In the music industry.
Yes. And she runs Warner Chappell in Canada, and she's actually one of the founders of Advance, the Black Music Professional Collective, right?
Yeah.
So, she's definitely active. There's other people. There's not just record label people involved in this in Advance, and I want to express that to anybody else in this business. Is like, it's professional, Black professionals, meaning, if you own a label, you own a publishing company, you own
you're a content creator,
a concert promoter, you own a concert company. Like, I think anything that has to do with the music business and it's a company, like you own a business, that's what it's meant for, and I'm excited about that because we just haven't had a lot of opportunities where people where we're uplifting ourselves and mentoring ourselves and being advocates for ourselves in that space.
Nice.
I've been part of other organizations in the past that have been put in place for the Black music community and stuff, and I feel like this is different.
What makes it different? What makes this one different?
I can't like quantify it, and it's a feeling. There's a certain thing in the air coming out of everybody's mouth in these meetings, everybody really is fighting to make a change and a difference. And I don't feel like anybody is like bickering and fighting over philosophies and ideas. There's also a level of respect put in place. And there's also intergenerational of people. So you have young people and you have older OGs in it. And I think that's really important because the OGs can give some perspective of how things are and what they've been through. But at the same time, I love the young spirit of somebody young up in the mix who has a fire or just wants to like, yo, let's change the game. You know what I'm saying? and also their interconnection to a community that's happening right now is important.
Nice. Sarah's saying our people need to apply and lobby to get into the CRTC. However, since few of us have connections, contacts, and experience in the fields regulated by the CRTC, it's hard. Let's keep kicking down the CRTC door, not abolish it.
Oh yeah, I never said anything about abolishing it. I'm not talking that. I agree with her.
And she's also asking, is Advance working with the Black North Initiative to increase the number of Black executives?
It's interesting. The Black North Initiative, I think, kind of started around the same time as Advance. Like, I remember being on the board calls and somebody brought up, hey, do y'all know about the Black North? Like, I don't think there's really, it's interesting because the Black North is very like corporate business world. West Hill and what he's doing over there is great.
Yeah.
But I don't think that and I can't, just from my experience and what I'm talking about right now, I don't know if there's been any like actual alignment between us two yet. And I think
Right.
there needs to be. I think
Yes.
that's something that needs to be done. But like I said, both these organizations are just starting. Both
Right.
of them are both trying to make, and I do believe both can coexist. I don't think that, I don't think that one's going to hurt the other in a bad way. You know what I mean?
Got it.
But I think that it would be nice to see what synergies the two of them can come together to help with a lot of the stuff that they're doing, you know?
Nice.
Advance is very music focused. It's all about the music business and the companies within the music circle. And I think the Black North is more aligned with like overall big Fortune 500 companies and everything else. You know what I mean?
Okay. With these initiatives that are going, actually, the idea that you and Ian had for the weekly broadcasts, from the time that you discussed it to the time it launched, how much of time span was that?
I would say I haven't really tracked it, but I'd say it feels like maybe about six or 7 weeks.
Okay.
Maybe like a month and a half.
Nice.
Yeah,
Nice.
because I sit on one of the boards for SEMA, so I sit on their professional. They have a professional board for like workshops and the professional development, and so when everything started happening with the riots, well, not even, I don't like calling them riots, not riots, with the protests and like everybody else that I know out there, the questions that start coming from our white colleagues of like, hey, what can we do and what needs to be done? And okay, that's great. Well, first and foremost, y'all got to address your problems, you know? And that's one of the first things I said to SEMA is like, you know, you have to look within yourself and address the issues that you currently have that is making challenges for Black folks in the music business. And they agreed right away. And I know SEMA right now is working on changing how their board is elected based on that, you know? So that was kind of like one of the first things that kind of how that all came about. And then when we launched it, which was 3 weeks ago, it just all came together pretty fast, I guess you could say, you know?
Yeah.
And I don't know if I could have done it if I didn't have, like, me and Ian are both like 25 plus years in the industry, you know what I mean? So we have a lot of relationships, you know what I mean? So we were able to call people and get people on the phone and line people up right away, you know what I mean? So that makes it a lot easier.
Yeah. So 2020 has been a classic year. Like, we may never have another one like it. Outside, how has the Canadian Black music industry done this year? How's, obviously Advance is doing this initiative, you're doing the weekly shows. How has the music industry been for Black Canadians on the concert promotion? How's it been so far? Because obviously it's a shift now, because a lot couldn't do live shows.
Are you talking about how is it affecting Black musicians, period, and Black
Yes.
professionals?
Yes.
I think it affects us all severely. Like, I think the same way that it affects everybody right now is touched by this, you know? But the one thing I have realized is that there is different organizations, different people that have been very active in reaching out to myself, to the artists that I know in the community about, opportunities to get money where money is at for them to help them where they are in their careers. I think that it's you have to have a totally different mindset right now as an artist and a different mindset as a business person, because you have to reconfigure your whole model, because the music business is based on live, like a lot on live sales, unless you're an artist who's really a viral online type of artist. You know what I'm saying? And even those ones have to think about, okay, how do I rejig things, because everybody is online now. You know what I mean? Like, you've been doing your podcast a long time, but as you know, in the last year, podcast numbers have like skyrocketed.
No, forget about the last year since March. Forget even the last year since March.
Since March, exactly. So, and even with artists putting music out is being crazy. Like, I was just talking to somebody last week, and he said the numbers right now are about 50,000 songs a day.
What?
50,000 songs a day around the world are released.
Holy!
So how do you compete with that? How does even Spotify able to listen to all those songs? Like, it's very challenging. You know what I mean? So a lot of it relies heavy on what individuals are doing online themselves, how innovative they can be, how artistic and creative they can be, and the goods that they're putting out there. So yeah, it's freaking hard. I had one of my artists the whole year. We planned to tour in Brazil and in Germany and France this summer, and it didn't happen. And now it's like, but the cool thing is, they've learned how to. They picked up a skill set now of like doing artwork. So now they want to do. They've been learning how to use like Photoshop and Illustrator and picking up a new skill set. And I think like that's what the innovation is that I'm talking about. It's like artists have to now think about, and not just artists, but businesses. Like, as business people, we have to be innovative in our thought process of like, what am I not doing that I could be doing better? What skill set could I be learning that will make my work more efficient? Do you know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
There's different ways we have to think about things, especially when we've had 6 months to do it. Do you know what I'm saying?
Things are never going to be the same again. But do you think, is this time that we've had over the last 6 months, the aftermath, is it going to level out the playing field when it comes for Black artists, or is it going to make the gap between the haves and have-nots wider?
I think that some gaps will be filled, and I think some gaps won't. It's an unfortunate thing, but not everything's going to change in one day. Nothing has. Do you know what I'm saying? But just like our past predecessors that have been before us, they all protested to make Black music categories of the Junos. They all.
I was one of them.
They all fought the music business to create different categories within promotion techniques, marketing departments. There's all these things that have been done before us that have helped push the meter a little bit. And I think that the one area of this business, in my opinion, that needs to be strengthened is our professionals. Because to be real, like, I'm not hating on no artists, but like, there's so many friggin' artists. And there's so many artists. And when I go and I listen to a lot of artists, there's like, I can name off 20 acts that I think are like amazing from Canada. And I mean amazing musically. I don't feel like I need to go to them and tell them to change up what they're doing. But the question is, well, why are they only known on their block? Why are they only known within one circle? Why are they only known in one area? Why are they only cutting through here? I believe it's because infrastructure is not here to help them. And I believe that infrastructure is not in place to benefit Canadian artists to actually make an indent, especially black artists in this country, unless they seem to have to go somewhere else to make it known. Like every single artist that's been successful in this country has had to go somewhere else to bring back some hype for us to like get on board.
So, so Click, is that a Canadian music thing or is that a Canadian thing?
I think it is an infrastructure thing.
Okay.
I think it is an infrastructure thing. I really do. Because I think like if you gave, it's not like, trust me, a bunch of us were champion Drake before Drake was even where he is. You know, me and Ivan Evidente were championing Drake, trying to get him signed to Universal in 2006-7. Okay, so why didn't that move? Maybe it's because neither of us had the signing power to just say, yo, this guy needs to be signed and this one needs to be done. Give us the power, let's go. Or it could also be like, why did there's so many there's so many artists as examples of this who have basically have not had people in their corner of power in the industry to actually dictate this needs to be done for them. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
It's interesting though. My mother-in-law is Salome Bay.
Yes, the late Salome.
I've been doing so much research, collecting archival newspaper clippings and trying to make sure that her legacy is preserved. It's messed up that I have to do that because I do it because we're not good at doing it ourselves.
Documentation.
In the industry, this comes back to us not being in positions of power. If we were in more media outlets or more places to actually dictate and demand that, no, this needs to happen, when I have a publicist telling me like he's spending the majority of his time educating people on who she is, that's a problem. That should not be the case. Do you know what I'm saying? When I went and read some of her articles, I realized that there were some people in power that really made some big moves for her. There was people that gave her, like being one of the first black entertainers to have their own TV special. The very first ever black person to run on all black cast that was sold out for 13 months in theaters in Toronto, first time ever. That kind of dictated what needed to happen, but still there was a lot of challenges faced for her, you know? But I guess what I'm getting at is if we have more of us in position, we can dictate what the landscape and how we want to promote and how we want to get behind our artists in a faster way. That's what I'm talking about. Otherwise, we're kicking the can trying to convince everybody. And by the time we convince everybody, the artist has jumped ship somewhere else and they're coming back feeling, oh, Canada didn't do nothing for me. Do you know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
That's part of the problem we're having. My phone's about to die, by the way.
Okay, so we're gonna make it like really well. We'll end it off here, but I don't know if you can answer this really quick. It may be a long. Maybe you have to come back. But the question here from Sarah saying, "What can you say about the situation in French-speaking Canada, Quebec specifically?"
Well, we have on Advance. We have a couple people from the France market that are on the calls that are definitely there to represent the French, and I think that. That market is really challenging because of the bilingual problems, and especially amongst black artists being heard and seen right now in that country, in that province is a big issue. It's a longer discussion that I don't even think I have the qualifications to really drop in, but it is something that needs to be addressed. Okay,
no problem. Respecting your battery power, I'd like to say thank you, first of all, for taking the time on a beautiful day by the lake. Maybe now you're inspiring me. I've got to do a Dr. Vibe show by the lake. Okay, you had to go there again with a side view again. You're so rude. You're so rude. But David, again, thanks to you.
Thank you for having me, man.
No, and before we let you go, a few things. Condolences to you and the family on the loss of Salome. Next up, where can people find out more information about you and or Advance, etc.? Anything you'd like to leave us with?
You know what? Pretty much, I know that you put up a bunch of stuff in the chat.
Yeah, it's up there, so you don't. We don't have to really have to go.
All I could say that what I really want to do out of all these things, the last thing I want to say is this: it's not about just chasing and knocking on these doors of organizations and companies that exist. It also comes down to empowering ourselves, a position of power and empowerment to own our own businesses and keep the money within our own communities to go somewhere. You know what I'm saying? So I think that that's the other thing that really excites me about what we're doing, is how I can empower the next record label owner, the next publisher, the next media giant. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Okay. Well, your guys are about to run out, so I'm going to let you go. David, thanks again. We will be in touch. Walk good, my brother.
All right. Peace.
All right. Peace. That's David Click Cox of the Advance Black Music, Canada's Black Music Collective, and we had the information scrolling along there. Also, he runs his own promotions company called CLK Creative Works. Hey, great conversation. I'd like to have him stay longer, but hey, it's down by the lake. I'm taking up his time, and like to thank wonderful people here, Sarah and Nicole. Thank you for your continuous support. It's appreciated, not taken for granted. Same thing with Dr. Tachi. And yes, Sarah saying Dr. Vibe by the lake. Yes, we're going to see if we can get that to happen. And yes, Sarah says, amen, empowering ourselves to our own community and keep the dollars in our community. Much agreed. I am Dr. Vibe, host and producer of the award-winning Dr. Vibe Show, the home of Epic Conversations. I'm the host of Epic Conversations, 2018 award winner in the innovation category, given out by the Canadian Ethnic Media Association. And once a month, I host conversations for fathers that are co-sponsored by Dad Central, Canada's national fatherhood organization, and Dove Men Care. If you want to get in touch with me, the best place to do that is my website. That's the Dr. Vibe Show. We're going to just put it up quickly up on the screen as I wind it out right here. We're going to put the link up if you want to touch base with me. My website address, thedrvibeshow.com. That's if you want to listen to any of my Epic Conversations replay-wise, watch any of my conversations replay-wise, Epic Conversation-wise. If you want to get in contact with me, all my social media information. If you want to be on the Dr. Vibe Show, this is a part of the Dr. Vibe Show family called Black Canada Talking. Once a week, Sundays, 5 p.m. Eastern Time, most Sundays. If you want to be a guest, reach out to me. You can do that through the website. As always, I'm going to close out with this. Live your life as a dream. If you can dream it, you can make it. Next up, sometimes you have to get small to get stronger. Block assumptions, then aim bigger, aim better, aim higher, aim wider. God bless. Peace to well. Keep the faith and walk good. And thanks again to BIA Media for the incredible production. Good night, everybody.